residents of the city have come along with funds not exactly matching funds, probably an additional $20,000 to make that fireworks display happen each year. But the David Meade Massey, for the most part, kicks it off each year, and we want to thank them for that. Item 7 is to grant the use of the city park and the surrounding streets for the Tour of the Scioto Valley bicycle event. Chillicothe is a halfway point from Columbus down here, and they're very appreciative to the city of Chillicothe and our Parks and Rec department for what we have to offer them as they pass through our city. And they have been kind enough to give us a donation of sorts over the years to pay for that. We don't actually bill them for anything, but they're kind enough to kick in some bucks into the Parks and Rec department, which is something that we really appreciate. You can tell it's summer, getting into the summer season, because President Arnold has given me the Feast of the Flowering Moon legislation, yes. So we'll get that underway before long, and with that, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Trussell. Mrs. Malone.
Thank you, President Arnold. The Engineering Committee has 2 items on tonight's agenda. Item number 1, which I don't think I have to go too far into, the rezoning of 15 Western Avenue, which will be voted on tonight. Item number 5 is the second reading to approve the proposed rezoning of property located at 605 East Main and 15 North Brownell Streets from R8 to C2. There will be another public hearing, as we had tonight, at the next meeting on March 8th. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Malone. Mrs. Patrick.
Thank you, President Arnold. Utilities does not have an item on the agenda tonight. However, I would like to remind the public that we will be starting the monthly billing for utilities for the water bills starting next month in March. It will be the estimated bill for those that their bill starts with the letter A. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please call the Utilities Billing Office at 773-2191. And for those of you that are concerned about having to pay for an extra postage stamp or an extra trip down to pay your bill, we do offer automatic bill pay. And that is where we can take your bill out of your checking or savings account. You receive a copy of the bill before the amount is deducted, so you know how much will be taken out of your account, but that does save you a trip and a postage stamp if you're interested. And the billing department has that information. And I would also like to remind people the Rate Review Committee meeting is Wednesday at 3:30, the 24th, at the Mayor's Conference Room. And this is to see if an automatic 2% rate increase is justified. If we do not act, it becomes an automatic 2% rate increase. So if the citizens are concerned, please call your council members, let them know how you feel. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Patrick. Mrs. Ames.
Thank you, President Arnold. Development has 2 items on the agenda tonight. Item number 2 is the third reading to authorize the mayor to apply for Clean Ohio Assistance Grant funds. I had a review session on this. This is to continue the phase 2 of the Brownsfield cleanup in the city. Item number 9 is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Regional Development Corporation to file an application on behalf of the Community Housing Improvement Program, the CHIP program. And this is something that we do regularly. We apply for money through the CHIP program. We get the money, and then we, like right now, we are using funds that we applied for in 2008, 2009. We applied 2010. We'll get them in 2011. There are meetings tomorrow and Wednesday in the City Hall building to determine what this money is going to, which area of town, which projects. So these have not been determined yet. This is just the first reading for this to let people know that this will be coming, that the mayor is going to be applying for this. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Ames. Mr. Sibley.
Yeah, thank you, President Arnold. The Finance Committee does have one item on the agenda, item number 8. It's to appropriate $7,500 for outside contracts for examinations and evaluations for the Chillicothe Municipal Court. I do have a letter here I'd like to read from both judges. It is short, so it kind of explains their allocation request for the $7,500. The Chillicothe Municipal Court requested $25,000 to be appropriated for outside contracts for the budgeting of competency examinations and not guilty by reason of insanity evaluations. This request was accompanied with an explanation that these reports had been historically provided by the Scioto Paint Valley Mental Health Center at no charge to the court. The court had been informed that the Scioto Paint Valley Mental Health Center funding had been cut nearly $3 million in the state budget process. The court, since September of 2009, has been billed for each required evaluation at a minimum of $300 each. In July of 2009, the court advised City Council that Ohio Revised Code 2945.371 mandates that the evaluations be paid for by the legislative authority of the municipal court. As part of the 2010 court budget request, the state's requirement for these funds to be allocated was reiterated. However, the appropriation granted was only $100 in that particular line item. The court has a mandatory obligation to hold a hearing on the issue of the competency of the defendant to stand trial at any time raised by the defendant or the court's own motion. Such a hearing requires the defendant to be evaluated by a certified examiner. All expenses of the evaluation shall be borne by the legislative authority of the municipal court. The court currently has unpaid bills for evaluations performed in 2009 and requests for pending cases filed in 2010. Since there are no funds other than the $100 that have been appropriated by the legislative authority for these cases, it is hereby ordered that the legislative authority pay for these evaluations. It is imperative that the clerk, the auditor, and city council appreciate the legislative authority's mandatory duty and should be addressed as soon as possible. And with that, I'm going to request that we waive the 3-read rule on this tonight so that these funds can be moved from the unappropriated account to the court's outside contracts fund so that they can get their bills paid. They currently have at least $2,000 or $3,000 in arrears. And just to be clear, they are agreeing to only move $7,500 to get them through for the next 5 to 6 months. They do believe that it's going to come to the full $25,000 by the end of the year. But with discussions with both judges, that they have agreed to only move the $7,500 due to the tight budget process we're under right now. So again, I'll be waiving the 3-read rule tonight and appreciate your support for that. That's the conclusion of my report.
Very good. Any other committee reports? Mr. Kroll.
Thank you, President Arnold. Safety Service Committee has one item on tonight's agenda. It is item number 10. It provides for an agreement with the Ross County Commissioners for the city to be eligible for state reimbursement for costs in appointing counsel for indigent criminal defendants. This is something we regularly do, so because we do need to move on this, I, at the appropriate time, will ask to waive the 3-read rule. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports this evening? Okay. With that, we move to reports of officials. Mayor Salzer.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Don't really have anything on this evening's agenda to really address. The only thing I really wanted to mention was, once again, to thank the City Service Department crews as well as other crews that assisted in the snow removal over the past week. Once again, I think they did a very excellent job in making sure that the services were provided to the city. And to give you some idea of the amount of work, labor, or material and cost that was involved, actually our overtime cost amounted to, as of today, since the beginning of the year, $10,470. Now, out of that, most employees have elected to take deferred compensation, which means that instead of paying them out of pocket or out of city coffers, they have elected to take $4,014 worth of deferred comp. Most of that will come during the warm weather months, which I don't blame them for that.